Dr. David Nast is the Director of Specialized Services at Ramapo College of New Jersey. He has been in higher education for over 25 years. Prior to his current position, he held similar positions at the County College of Morris and Monmouth University. A recent professional highlight for Dr. Nast was a survey by Great Value Colleges that ranked Ramapo College 24th in the nation for their list of disability-friendly schools. Well, that's a great achievement. We just like to thank Dr. David Nast for taking the time to provide this super helpful information for those going off to college and that new journey in life. So at this point, I just want to introduce Dr. David Nast. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. Just today, I was, I guess, complaining to my colleagues. 30 years, almost 30 years in this profession, I still have students and families reaching out to me in August for the very first time regarding their fall college experience, looking for accommodations and supports and so forth. And while it's not too late, it leaves me pondering, where have they been for the last 4 or 5 months and so forth. So yes, I love the opportunity to provide education and insight and maybe help individuals get a better start than they might otherwise. So I'm not an expert in regards to epilepsy. However, I am an expert in regards to equal access on college campuses in providing disability support services. So what I'll be covering tonight with you all are disability laws that protect individuals, the disclosure process in a college environment, the documentation needs within a college environment, and the accommodations that would be helpful, appropriate in a situation for a student with epilepsy. So the first major law in the United States that provided a protection for individuals on college campuses was Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. That law said any institution receiving federal funds must allow for equal access. And that was the initial law that opened up college campuses. I've always found it interesting how many perceive college campuses as being these very liberal bastions and so forth. But unfortunately, colleges as a broad institution, we have had a bad history of exclusion, whether disability, ethnic minority, gender, and so forth. So it took a law to provide equal access. In 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act came into being, which further expanded equal access. And then Congress took it upon themselves to expand that even further with the amendments to the Disabilities Act in 2008. These laws really provide a threshold in regards to equal access. I'm fortunate to be working at a college where we try to go beyond what we simply are required to do by law. But these are important foundations that we build upon at Ramapo. All right, next. So disability laws, what college cannot do. So as an institution, we can't discriminate against individuals who are otherwise qualified. If you meet the standard of admissions, we must allow you in. Epilepsy definitely is a condition that throughout history has had a variety of stigmas attached to it. And it would be very inappropriate legally for a college to deny a student access to their institution based upon such a diagnosis. In addition, we must make reasonable accommodations, minor adjustments that don't represent fundamental alterations. And also, sometimes there's a misconception that colleges have a cap in regards to the number of individuals that they will allow in with a disability. Once again, that would be illegal, cannot be done. And conversely, colleges don't have a quota saying they must accept a certain number of disabled individuals either. What we must do, as I mentioned, we must make reasonable accommodations. Reasonable leaves a lot up for interpretation. However, we don't have to make fundamental alterations. So if a requirement that a college has is considered an essential part of their curriculum, of their experience, they can require an individual to meet that obligation, even if it's in conflict with their disability situation. That sounds very dramatic, but I have not experienced a situation where any of the requirements at the institutions I were at, which ended up representing a barrier for individuals with epilepsy. Yeah, all right, next screen. The Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, as it's typically known in the industry, is something that drives parents crazy. As college students are considered to be autonomous individuals and have rights, whether or not you as parents believe they have rights, the federal government believes they do. And it keeps the college from being able to have certain conversations with parents. Students are able to waive those rights to allow the college to speak with parents or other individuals, but the student must take a proactive action in order to waive those rights. Statements like, "But I pay the bill," doesn't get you anywhere in this discussion. The other part is often, in a traditional family, there seems to be a lack of appreciation why FERPA is necessary. But it's important to understand that not every family circumstance is a functional family, and these are in place to protect individuals who may need protection from relatives or other individuals that may not have their best interest in mind. Okay, next. Disabilities disclosure. So in order for a college to be aware of a student's disability situation, the student must disclose to the college. I was going to say shocked, but I don't know how many times you can be shocked over the same thing. But students, parents regularly say, "Oh, but I thought my school simply would send that information to you." Most likely that information is only kept in special education records. Those records are not sent to a college. Student, parent have to explicitly express to have that information sent. A student's high school transcript makes no notation regarding a disability situation, or it does not indicate explicitly whether a student was in any special education classes. So a student can go off to college and make no disclosure to that college regarding their disability. While that's not what I'm recommending, it's important to understand, though, you have to be active in the process of disclosure. Okay. So students will regularly ask me, should I disclose in the admissions process whether or not I have a disability? And my general advice is only if you're going to explain why it represents you as a better candidate to the admissions office. If you're asking them to say, "Oh, please take pity on me because I have epilepsy," it's not going to go very far in their review. However, if you're explaining to them the challenges that you've overcome and how that makes you better prepared to take on the challenges in the college setting, then use it for your advantage. My experience working with students with disabilities as a group, I feel that they are a more gritty bunch, and I mean that in a positive way, in that when challenges come their way as a group, they stay the course. They don't give up as easily. And that's something that you can emphasize in a college essay or in a college interview, but simply, dropping in that you have epilepsy and thinking that's going to win you the admissions process. I'm not admissions, but I highly doubt that that will help you. Making sure I cover information process. Yeah, all right. Yeah, most won't even ask it on their application. Some places say, oh, it's illegal for us to ask it. I don't know if it's illegal to ask, but the problem is if they ask it and then they turn you down, you as the student could say, oh, but they turned me down because they knew I had epilepsy. So most colleges won't even ask about disabilities on their application. All right. You're on campus. So how do you go about disclosing your accommodation needs or ask for your accommodation needs on the college campus? So at this point in time, every college has a disability support office. The challenge is we all go by different names. Our office is the Office of Specialized Services. On our campus, we're generally known as OSS. At the College of New Jersey, I don't know if they continue to use the name, but they used to use the name Office of Differing Abilities, catchy. Other offices are straight Office of Disability Support and so forth. So there's a lot of camouflaging, so it could be difficult for you to find, but every office has at least one professional who is there to coordinate disability accommodations in regards to students. You're going to be asked to provide documentation. Dr. Hartman was talking about how she fills out forms regarding for students going off to college. Our office has a medical documentation form, which would be the appropriate form in this type of situation, or our neurological condition form. We went to a form process a decade ago because we used to get letters from doctors which were generally 2 sentences, the student's diagnosis, and then a statement of please accommodate in whatever manner you can, or provide all appropriate accommodations. So we've developed a form that asks specific questions to help us assist the student while they're on our campus. And I've seen across other colleges the move to forms also. We'll accept information from the high school setting also. Your professors will not know about your situation unless you go through the disclosure process. At Ramapo, we have a system by which you're able to log into our OSS online system, pick out the classes that you want to disclose in, and then after submitting that, you can pick out specifically the accommodations that you want to request for the particular classes. Other schools will have some similar process. They may still be using paper and pencil, where you hand deliver the information to the professor. But the professor is not going to be aware of your accommodations or the fact that you have any type of disability unless you go through the process. If you decide, oh, I'm just going to do it unofficial, I'm going to go to the professor and ask, in high school, I used to get additional time. I was hoping to use this. Our office instruct professors to simply say, you have to go through the Office of Specialized Services. Sometimes students think that's just a professor being hard-nosed. The reality is we tell professors that situation may go fine between you and the student, but then when the student goes to the next professor and they say no, all of a sudden the student believes they have a discrimination claim against the second professor because the first one accommodated them. Why won't the second one? Well, the first one wasn't following the policy of the college. All right, so, all right. Oh, within our system, and I would say in most systems, those notices do not disclose the student's diagnoses. You as the student are free to share that specific information. But as from our office, we do not provide that information in a blanket fashion. Professors may or may not have a clear understanding of the different information that we would be providing if we provide diagnostic or diagnosis information. So we keep that confidential on our end, but we share that the student is affiliated with our office. These are the accommodations we believe are appropriate. And if they have any concern, to contact the student's disability counselor, which is listed at the bottom of the notice. All right. Each school has a different documentation process. Most schools will have forms, as I mentioned. So one of the things we regularly get are 504 plans and IEPs and nothing else. We need more information than that. Somehow students and families simply think, oh, this was my plan in high school, the college will simply accept it. We're operating under different laws. While they call it a 504 plan in high school, the reality is I've seen 504 plans that go well beyond equal access, and a professor is just not going to follow those recommendations, let alone my office support them. Number one thing that we're seeing post-pandemic, which I don't have a clear answer why, and it doesn't directly relate to epilepsy, but we have, like every other application to our office, students are asking for study guides as accommodations. That's not equal access. Creating a document to help you study, that's not the professor's responsibility. There's no way my office can require a faculty member to do that. There's nothing about a particular student's disability that would suggest that a study guide represents equal access. But we see those in IEPs and 504 plans all the time. All right, next. So a brief list of accommodations that may be relevant for what we're talking about tonight. Extended time on exams. Our office is looking for anything that could slow up a student in the testing process. College exams aren't intended to be really timed. The reason there is a time limit, that's the class period. So providing extended time is pretty easy. Rescheduling exams, coming post seizure type of situation, you may need time to recover. Rescheduling exam that should have occurred is something that a disability support office can assist with. Our office can particularly be helpful in that, in also providing the location for that later exam. Recording the class lecture in order to provide a backup to your own class notes. Concerns about focus and attention, the audio recording can assist with that. Modified class attendance policy. We can't require a faculty member to not hold a student to an attendance policy, but we can ask for a modification of that attendance policy. This is definitely one of those examples where a student can't attend due to medical circumstances in high school, would simply be excused. It does not translate to the college environment. Early registration or priority registration terms can be a little different, but this can be really important, really helpful, particularly at four-year colleges. Students sign up for classes at a four-year college at the first opportunity that they're allowed to sign up for their classes. And there's a heavy price to pay if you don't, in the sense of you're picking from the crumbs. So early course registration at our college, if you have that as an accommodation through our office, you're picking after graduate students, but before seniors. And what that allows you to do is pick from what's available versus what's left. So that All right. That could be important due to timing of your medication. That could be important due to fatigue factors. You may want to avoid too many classes in a row. There may be concerns about sleep schedule and not having very early classes or very late classes. Early registration, priority registration gives you the greatest chance of setting up the schedule that best meets your needs. Housing related accommodations. As the doctor said, you need for good sleep patterns. So one of the things that leaves us a little concerned is when a student with a seizure diagnosis is looking to live alone. We can make it happen, but do you need someone to check in on you? Maybe because if you're living alone, it doesn't naturally happen in those types of situations. Do you need maybe a setting with fewer roommates or suite mates? Once again, that's something that we could look at doing it as an accommodation. And keep in mind, what I've provided here is just things that I immediately thought would be appropriate. In our database of pre-written accommodations, we have over 200, and I added 3 more today. Speaking with a student with type 1 diabetes, she came up with things that we definitely could support, but we've never supported before. So we're always adding to our list of things that we believe are reasonable accommodations within the Ramapo environment. So when you're looking at different schools, if disability support is important for you, things that you should be asking is, where's the disability support office located? That will tell you how the college views that on that campus. We're located smack dab middle of the campus, not some basement dwelling or some auxiliary building down by the parking lot. Who makes up the staff? At Ramapo, we have 4 professional counselors, a director, an office coordinator. Unfortunately, our numbers, our numbers grow. That's not the unfortunate part. The unfortunate part is our staff hasn't grown. So we have over 600 students affiliated with our office, which is about 150 students per counselor. That's a pretty good number, as some of the numbers will go into the hundreds per counselor at campuses. Common accommodations. If a particular accommodation is important to you, reach out to the office and ask if they've had experience supporting that accommodation. If you're going to be the first one ever using something, there may be some skepticism at that school, or there may need to be a little more education of that office regarding how this would work in that setting and so forth. And the last part is, where does testing take place? If you have any testing accommodations, is it going to be easy to utilize them? We're fortunate to have a testing center that is able to handle adaptive testing. The college that my son attended, major, large university, each of the schools at that university had their own testing center for the general population, and they handled accommodations within those testing centers. Seemed like a very efficient operation there. But at some schools, they lay it all back on the professor, and it becomes very challenging for a professor to provide things like extended time, potentially because of their own schedule and other responsibilities. So, if you have the accommodations, how easy are they to use?